I 24F am married to my husband 28M and we have one daughter together 4F, Alaya. We both work a lot and I also work from home often. I needed cleaning so last week I called an agency and they send a girl over to clean the house and we agreed on $40 an hour. Let's call her Eva. So Eva, who is around 19 or 20 years, arrives at my house with her little sister 8F. I asked her why her little sister was here and she said she had no one else to leave her with. I wasn't very pleased but assumed she didn't have a choice and didn't say anything. I showed Eva the playroom of my daughter and said it was to be cleaned as well, and her sister started staring around the room, touching all the toys. I again didn't say anything. Eva started working and I went to my room to get ready to pick up a cake for Alaya and to pick Alaya from school. I heard a noise in Alaya's playroom, so I rushed over and saw Eva's sister playing in the room and she broke a glass bowl that I had custom made for Alaya when she was born. At this point I was annoyed, but again I held myself and told Eva to clean it and keep an eye on her sister. I went out, picked up Alaya's favorite cake with strawberries. It was a cake that had strawberries on only one side on the top, and on that same side there were more decorations, etc. I put it in the fridge and left again to pick up Alaya. When we walked in the kitchen I saw Eva's sister eating a big piece of the cake and exactly the part with the strawberries and more decorations. I have never had an issue like this before. In fact, the cleaning ladies never open my fridge or anything cause they have no business there. I asked Eva what she thought she was doing and she told me my sister was sad and really wanted cake, so I figured she could have a piece. Alaya started crying because she had been looking forward to her cake with strawberries and now the piece with strawberries were gone. I told Eva that it is not her place to figure whether her sister could eat something from my fridge without asking me. She could have waited for me to get back because I told her I would be back. I told her that even if she did do this, she should have not taken the whole decorated piece because she could have also figured that this cake was meant for my daughter. Eva said that you are getting mad for no reason, just take the money from my pay. I told her she could pack her stuff and leave with her sister and she didn't have to finish the house cleaning. She had been at the house for only 2 hours, but I paid her $120 and told her to get out. So I told a friend and she told me that I overreacted over a piece of cake and I should have understood the little girl. I again said that it is not just cake, but it is rude to open my fridge and take out a cake that is not unboxed yet and eat it. I am wondering now. Edit. Eva was supposed to be there for 3 hours and I sent her away after 2 but paid her 3 hours. Comment 1. NTA, when you booked your cleaning service you did not agree to having a child running around the home. Honestly, Eva is lucky you paid her at all, in my opinion. While I think it's a stretch to assume the cake was for your daughter unless explicitly stated, the food should not have been removed and eaten. I've cleaned houses before and I've always either brought my own food or eaten before/after, and the times I did have to bring my child, I gave advanced notice and brought entertainment for him and made it very clear he was to sit quietly and not wander. Eva did none of these things for her younger sister. Comment 2. It doesn't really matter who it's for. It didn't belong to her, she shouldn't have been grabbing food without permission, and most people would assume a whole cake in the fridge is for a special occasion. EA, do not touch. I would have sent her away when the bowl broke. Comment 3. NTA, that cleaning lady brought her sister and is accountable for her sister's actions, which means she's responsible for the destruction of your property and the theft of some of your daughter's cake, which it is. She stole from you to give to her sister and assumed you would be fine with it or not find out before she left. She's lucky you paid her at all, let alone gracious enough to give her the 3 hours for the 2 hours she was there for. My dad got married to Liz 4 years ago. I, 15M, was spending equal amounts of time with both my mom and dad, and the custody schedule was me swapping houses each week. Liz has 3 kids from her first marriage and those kids are 10, 8 and 7 now. The kids were clingy from the day they moved in, but then in June and July 2020 I was living there exclusively because my mom ended up in the hospital. I couldn't do anything without the kids being in my face then, and every time I asked Dad and Liz to help me stop them they refused and the kids didn't listen to me saying no. My dad told me I would never get another chance to have siblings and to embrace and nurture the relationship with them. I told him this was making them feel more like burdens than siblings, and he told me I was too young to see them that way and dismissed my need for space. It was a huge relief when Mom got better and I could go to her house for breaks. By the time I was 12, I had asked my mom if she could go to court to change the custody deal so I could spend more time with her. I was 13 when it was successful. My dad was upset and Liz was kinda mad that her kids would miss me more than they did while I was at Dad's. My uncles, Dad's brother and his husband, even said how strangely clingy the kids were, and they found it weird that every time I was with my mom the kids would be asking when I would come home and why they couldn't see me. I wouldn't even be gone a day and they would ask that. They started that before we even knew each other a year. I spend way less time with my dad now, and I went on vacation with him, Liz and the kids last June, and it was miserable. My vacation was basically spending all that week with the kids and following them around and doing stuff they liked. On Christmas Eve I spent a few hours at Dad's because the court still asks for that. So I was there and my step-siblings were being super clingy and telling me not to go, I should be with them at Christmas, and then they demanded they get invited to my mom's house, and Liz asked me how I could leave and miss out on a family Christmas and hurt my siblings so much. Dad told me on drive back to Mom's, he told me that I should be taking my responsibility more seriously. I took a 3-week break from them, but the 10-year-old called me daily during those 3 weeks. Then Dad announced we were going on vacation again in May, and he was saying it was a place I wanted to go. I decided right there that I was not going to ruin a place I had always wanted to go by being smothered by my step-siblings, and I told Dad they can go but I won't, and that I won't be going on vacation with them again. He was surprised and he told me I had to go, and I said I don't and I won't, and he asked me for one good reason why, and I told him my step-siblings would ruin it by suffocating me and that he and Liz would do nothing about it. Dad called my attitude nasty and said I should be ashamed of myself talking about them like that. Comment 1. NTA, your dad and Liz are failing you and your step-siblings. There needs to be boundaries for the kids. If they had done this from the first, you might have been able to develop feelings for your step-sibs. The way they treated you / them guaranteed you will never want to be around them at all. Comment 2. Cannot say NTA loud enough. Dad and stepmom really dropped the ball. It is not healthy to force relationships between people in their lives before they decided to get married. The fact that OP is a kid, to an extent dependent on them, just makes it worse. On the other hand, they need to address the issues step-siblings have. It is their job to teach them boundaries and respect. Plus they might have to address some potential deeper attachment issues. These parents have failed all of their kids. Bad. Comment 3. NTA. Your dad and Liz ignoring your feelings and not intervening between you and your step-siblings will escalate your resentment even more. And I get it and don't blame you at all. They want this perfect family but don't want to put in the effort to have it. Or they want a live-in, free nanny. Whatever they might want, you are not obliged to entertain the kids on your own all the time. This is not bonding, especially if you are unwilling, and is doing quite the opposite. So definitely NTA. My wife and I got married this December. We've been together for 7 years and I really wanted to give her the dream wedding she wanted. Both me and my wife were heavily involved in the wedding, and up until the reception, it was the best day of our lives. My wife is very shy and non-confrontational. She wasn't hard on anyone about gifts, dresses, kids, etc. We had a few simple rules like don't wear white and don't do anything to take the attention from the bride and groom. Then, during the reception, her sister walks in, dressed in this little white dress with her boyfriend. She was late and had missed the actual wedding completely. Their mom went up on the stage and on the mic requested everyone to pay attention to Bella, the sister, and there her BF got down on one knee and proposed. As you can guess, suddenly, all the attention was on Bella. Their mother still screaming "my sweet daughter" on the mic. No one had warned or even asked us before doing this. I was angry, but my wife was just sitting in her seat trying not to cry. We hadn't even started the wedding speeches for us or cut the cake yet, and now all her family could think about was Bella. After about 20 minutes of her family just ignoring us and basically stopping the reception to drink and take pictures with the new bride-to-be, I was done. My wife just said she wanted to leave while trying to stop her tears. I told my parents and our mutual friends to wrap up the party and took my wife and left. No one from her family stopped us. She cried the whole way to the hotel. After about 2 hours, our phones started blowing up and I shut our phones to hopefully get some sleep. The day after, we left for our honeymoon and celebrated New Year's in Kashmir. We didn't talk to anyone except my parents. We returned home last weekend and my wife's mother and sister came to visit. They were mad at us for leaving our wedding and embarrassing them. My wife just told them to leave and went up to her room, locking herself in. When my mother-in-law turned to me, I said she was a horrible mother for doing this to her daughter and she can forget about contacting us for the foreseeable future. Bella called me a hole for ruining the party for everyone, and I called her an attention-seeking witch in return. Now some of our friends and relatives are saying they understand we were hurt but that it was wrong to leave the party altogether. So, comment 1. NTA The fact is, it was your wedding. You get to choose when to leave your own wedding and that is it. I am so sorry to hear of your wife's experience on your wedding day. Her family sound like they can't stand the attention on anyone else and immediately got defensive about their actions. Your wife has you to validate her feelings and support her choices. In all honesty, if it were my family, I would cut them out completely at this stage. Comment 2. NTA at all, OP. Bella, your mother-in-law and the rest of your wife's family are the a-holes here. They intentionally co-opted your wedding, without asking, to propose. They wanted to take the attention away from you and your wife, which is very attention-seeking and very inappropriate. Your wedding is about you, not anyone else. That means if you are uncomfortable or upset, you are welcome to leave. It's not an ideal solution, after all, it was your big day, which you spent time and money on. But in the face of what happened, I think your decision was understandable and justifiable. You have done the right thing standing by your wife. You attended to her needs, supported her through the pain of being forced aside on her wedding day, and stood up to her family. You are an excellent husband. Keep it up, she's lucky to have you. Comment 3. NTA, and walking out was probably better than what I would have done, which was to walk to the microphone and say, well, wasn't that a shock? It's always so classy to make someone else's much-anticipated wedding reception all about you, isn't it, folks? All those who'd like to attend Bella's engagement party are welcome. No gifts, please, just show up at their address tomorrow night at 8 p.m. for champagne and caviar, and please bring your friends. I planned a physically extensive vacation, horseback riding through the mountains for 10 days, prior to getting into a relationship with a guy that has a bad knee and a bunch of GI issues, including being an extremely picky eater and unable to drink plain water. When I told him about the trip, he immediately asked if he could come and if there was space on the excursion. He was really excited that something like that exists. He used to ride horses when he was a kid. When I pointed out that he will be on horseback for literally 10 days, hasn't even ridden a horse in 12+ years, will have to eat whatever food they provide, and sleep in a rough campsite on top of all these health issues, he said he would just bear it. I told him he should research the trip and maybe go ride a horse locally somewhere. He had no interest in that and instead went to Boot Barn and started buying cowboy clothing. His knee issues are significant. If something happened, he could really injure himself further and he is on state health insurance. It's not great care. He kept talking like he really could do this trip. He cannot even walk more than a mile or 2 and cannot go hiking. How could he possibly ride on horseback through the mountains for 10 days? I literally turn into his medical assistant for physical work and his GI issues. His lack of concern and inability to think realistically struck me. If I go even a year without riding a horse, even just 6 months, Then I am in serious pain after 2 hours of riding. This would be 10 whole days. Not to mention the GI issues. He has sporadic GI issues that cripple him for hours. So the thought of 10 days of me having to worry about him, likely have to help him out a lot, and the risk was real that he may not be able to even finish the trip at all had me really start to dread the trip. I ended up having to tell him that I really want to just do this trip solo, as I originally planned it. I am a professional rider and I want to get the most out of this trip. Edit, the water thing. He is physically able to drink water. He says it worsens his heartburn and that's why he needs to drink soda, chocolate milk, and flavored water. He also cannot eat normally. I have only ever seen him eat chicken fingers, plain cheeseburger, just bun plus patty, mildly spiced Thai curry, pizza, Kraft mac and cheese, and other packaged foods. He says he cannot eat vegetables. I have never seen him eat a vegetable with the exception of the ones in the Thai curry. This alone is almost reason for me to not want to go with him. They don't have a kids menu. There will be a chef making food and you don't get to make requests. Comment 1. NTA. I've known about spoiled trips that are physically demanding. One person who's not in good shape, even without your BF's food and medical problems, can turn the trip into a nightmare. The person's partner spends all their time trying to help the partner. Meanwhile, the trip is ruined for everybody else, since this person can't keep up the planned pace and can't simply be left behind in the wilderness. Don't do this to your BF, don't do this to your friends, don't do this to yourself. Comment 2. NTA. This trip was planned before he existed in your life and was just for you. He can be mad, but he has to acknowledge his limitations and understand that this trip was planned for you, it's your thing. And I say that as someone who is disabled from a failed spine surgery and has GI issues. I would never put myself in a situation where I would be vulnerable or a burden to others. The fact that he refused to even test his ability at a local equine center says he knows he can't. I'd be brutally honest and say you're not only rightfully concerned about him because he cannot handle it, but also that it would ruin your trip as you'd be worrying about him the whole time. It's your trip, it was planned before you were together, you're doing it solo. End of story.